So, a few days ago, we went over this William Nylander trade idea between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers. If you remember, we pulled that idea from an article on thescore.com, Who Says No, 7 Hypothetical Offseason Trades published by Josh Wegman. If you needed the scoop, the Score crew went out there and proposed a few hypothetical trade ideas and asked the very simple question as to which teams involved would say no. Last time, it was a full unanimous, hey, Toronto was going to say no, and I happen to agree with that assessment. You can watch the video to see what that was all about. But in this video, what I wanted to do was talk about yet another trade idea that was brought up in the piece. It's the second trade idea, and it's debatably a much more interesting one because the conclusion from the writers on thescore.ca, or .com, excuse me, I keep on making that mistake, is that this trade idea is a good deal. So, let's go out there and look at Sean O'Leary's hypothetical trade idea between the Calgary Flames and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This one's a lot more simple than the last one. The Blue Jackets would receive center Elias Lindholm with a 6-year by $8.5 million extension in exchange for Adam Boqvist, Cole Sillinger, and a 2025 first-round pick. Now, this one actually has each of the other writers saying that it's a good deal. Lindholm for Boqvist, Sillinger, and a first. Let's go over each of the assets involved and talk about this idea here. Elias Lindholm is a 28-year-old center, 6 feet, 194 right-handed guy signed to the end of 2024, making $4.8 million a year. He will expire as a UFA, and we've already talked about this before, but he is a part of this group of guys in Calgary that may or may not want to re-sign with that team. We had already seen Tyler Toffoli get shipped out for the very same reason, that he was not interested in re-signing, and for Lindholm, there could be some sort of a similar deal done here. Lindholm is a pretty good player. Last year, he had 64 points in 80 games played, which is pretty good, all things considered, but the year before that, he was an 82-point guy. 42 goals, 40 assists, a bunch of guys on the Calgary Flames this past season were lacking in production, so the fact that Lindholm went from a 40-goal guy to a 20-goal guy, probably not really indicative of his skill per se, more so indicative of the quality of play the Calgary Flames provided. As a result, you have yourselves Lindholm potentially being on the market. There are teams out there like Columbus, for example, that might be interested in getting another center that is in the midst of his prime, that could play with a guy like Johnny Gaudreau, for example, whom he's already had chemistry with. And if the Blue Jackets get a guy like Lindholm, this could be a piece, along with the other guys they've acquired, the Damon Seversons of the world, the Ivan Provorovs of the world, that could really bolster up this team in the now. Plus, you have Adam Fantilli, that could be a very legit top 6 forward by himself. Texier's coming back, apparently, and you're hoping for some more improvements out of guys like Kent Johnson. You're hopefully seeing more out of Igor Chinakhov. So when it comes to the Blue Jackets, you could very realistically say that this team is on the up and up, and getting a guy like Elias Lindholm could be a bolstering move. Of course, you're going to have to re-sign him, which is why the extension is labeled here, 6 years, $8.5 million, and in return, the Calgary Flames would be getting younger while also getting some extra picks. Adam Boqvist, included in this deal, was a former top-round 2018 guy. Right-handed defenseman, he was supposed to be this premier offensive talent. There were a lot of people, myself included, back in 2018, who were saying that Hughes and Boqvist were the 2 best offensive defensemen outside of Rasmus Dahlin. Of course, we know Quinn Hughes is Quinn Hughes now, but Adam Boqvist never really broke out in that same way. Does he still have that ceiling? It may take a while to figure that out. But for Adam Boqvist, last year he had 24 points in 46 games played. If you do the math over 82, that's roughly on pace for a 40-point-ish season. While it is no Quinn Hughes point production metric, it still is a very good number out of a right-handed guy. And for Adam Boqvist heading into the future, you're hoping that the 23-year-old can really hone his offensive talent and power play quarterbacking opportunities into getting more points, into being that number 1 offensive guy like we thought he would be when he was taken 8th overall by the Blackhawks in 2018. As for Cole Sillinger, this is a guy who is also on the up and up. He's 20 years old, and last year he actually did have a pretty steep decline in point production. In his rookie 18-year-old year, he had 16 goals and 31 points. This past season, 3 goals and 11 points. So a big decline for Cole Sillinger is what awaited him in his sophomore season. Definitely not ideal, but you can't go out there and say that sophomore slumps are unexpected at this point. So we're all just sort of hoping that Cole Sillinger is able to bounce back in the best way possible and really feel comfortable in the NHL again. He had spent an extended time with the Cleveland Monsters as a result of his lack of production, and I think a lot of people are more optimistic on Cole Sillinger than not, mostly because he is only 20 years old, and there is so much time for him to become more comfortable and grow in the NHL in general. Plus, you have the fact that his dad, Mike Sillinger, was a former Columbus Blue Jacket, so there's a good connection over there. But if it's Cole Sillinger, Adam Boqvist, and another first-round pick heading over to Calgary for Elias Lindholm, as we had said, the Calgary Flames need to get younger. They need more prospects. They have such a shallow prospect pool compared to the others in the NHL, and with all the guys that are potentially leaving, the Noah Hannafins, the Lindholms, the Toffolis, as we have already talked about, this team might have a one-stop shop to rebuild city by the time 2024-2025 rolls around. So, trading away a guy whom you're not really expecting to come back anyway for a bunch of younger assets and a first on top of that seems like a pretty good deal. And it's why the writers here on The Score go out there and unanimously agree that this is good. Why this trade could work, the article writes, is that Elias Lindholm reportedly turned down Calgary's big offer to re-sign, so new Flames GM Craig Conroy would be wise to move him ASAP. The Flames simply cannot afford to lose him for nothing, and they could likely maximize a trade return during the offseason when teams have more flexibility. Boqvist and Sillinger are 2 enticing pieces for Calgary, and both are replaceable for Columbus. Lindholm would essentially take Sillinger's spot at center, and the Jackets are loaded on right defense. Boqvist, the 2018 8th overall pick, showed great strides in his development before a foot injury derailed his season. Sillinger is coming off a rough sophomore campaign, but he's still only 20 years old. Jarmo Kekalainen isn't afraid to make bold moves, and he's been aggressive this offseason acquiring Provorov and Severson. Adding Lindholm would be the final piece to the puzzle to fill a massive weakness down the middle of the ice. Why this trade might not work, however, is what Wegman writes about in this part of the article. Calgary would likely prefer a 2024 first-rounder as part of a deal, even if it's protected in some manner. Lindholm might also be unwilling to sign a long-term deal in Columbus. He'll likely try to get the maximum term when he signs his new contract too. While that is a good point, I definitely do feel it's more likely that he signs long-term with Columbus rather than Calgary. Not necessarily because Columbus, Ohio is such an amazing place to live in compared to Calgary, Alberta, but because if Johnny Gaudreau is already there, if that guy already chose his destination as being in Columbus, Ohio, I feel like Elias Lindholm has so much good faith in Gaudreau that it probably would be more of an enticing offer to stay there too. If you can guarantee 8 more years with Johnny Gaudreau after putting up a career year in 2021-2022 in Columbus with a young core that's already getting better and some extra added depth, I honestly think it's a pretty good offer. Like, the Blue Jackets seem like a good enough team, in the future at least, to justify bringing over some guys and having them sign long term. Like, it doesn't seem like a bad deal. I don't know. Like, I know there are a lot of Blue Jackets fans that watch this channel that are going to be like, yeah, like, look at Lego, he's saying what we want. But, like, at the end of the day, that's just kind of how I think of this entire situation. The guys on The Score agree, too. They all said this is a good deal. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Flames fan or a Blue Jackets fan, what do you think about this trade idea? Lindholm with an extension attached in exchange for Adam Boqvist, Cole Sillinger, and a 2025 first. If you're a Calgary Flames fan, are these the young assets that you want on your team? Are you still holding on to hope that you could re-sign Elias Lindholm? Or at this point, would you rather just take the trade bait? Take the prospects, take the pick, take the young guys. If you're on Columbus, would you be willing to give up on Mike Sillinger's son, Cole Sillinger, that quickly if it means getting Elias Lindholm in return? There have already been extended rumors linking Lindholm to Columbus in the first place. They want a center, they want a guy down the middle, etc., etc. Is this your guy? And does Boqvist, Sillinger, and a first get it done in your mind? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, the link to the article is going to be in the description if you want to read more about this trade idea as well as all the other ones included. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.